Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Hello everyone, and thanks for joining us for Monday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Dave Percy, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I'll be your host this evening. On the satellite yesterday, we had that first front that came down from the north, upper level low up there on the Arctic coast on the east side during the afternoon. That brought the winter storm warning up there, while the front dropping into the Gulf of Alaska and began to develop, just spreading some high clouds, mid to high clouds in over most of the southeast coast, although definitely some lower stuff off to the along the coast there, and then the moisture showers, some rainfall coming across the Tanana Valley, dropping in to the 40-mile country and then on down across the Copper River Basin. And last evening, some of that even got down into the North Gulf Coast. And a lot of clouds back here to the west, but the downslope winds clearing it out, again keeping it dry, quite dry over south central Alaska and back in toward Bristol Bay. Front trailing back through a building area of high pressure connecting with this next system out here, but all that's going up to the north. And you'll see today quite a ridge here has built in over much of the Bering Sea and has really just pushed it back to the west, carrying this up to the north. Some of this slipping through here right along the old frontal boundary, really getting stretched apart, but still good enough for some clouds, fog, drizzle, light rain from the Alaska Peninsula to Unalaska, right up across the Pribilofs for a short period of time today. Other areas seeing it a little bit longer down in there. And then the next system up here to the northwest, sliding over the top, already spreading some moisture into the northwest coast of the high-level variety. Otherwise, it cleared out up over the western Arctic coast, and not too bad of a day off to the east. A lot of clouds left over, but the wind's quite light as opposed to the pressure falls that took place over the Gulf of Alaska and associated with this developing storm. And the higher pressure building to the west, pretty gusty winds, 40 to 50 mile an hour wind gusts or more blowing through the Matanuska Valley this afternoon, across Palmer, and at least a portion of Wasilla. Pretty windy also in the Susitna Valley, but not quite as windy, just 30 to 35 mile an hour gusts, and that coming right down, blowing the dust into Anchorage with those winds at the airport, gusting 35 to some cases maybe as high as 40 miles per hour. And then rain here from Cordova over to Yakutat, where they picked up just under half an inch in the 24-hour period ending at 4 o'clock this afternoon. But rain all along the southeast coast, along with gusty southeast winds, 15 to 30, 32 miles an hour. Strongest up here on the north coast there. You can see that low center developed quite nicely here during the daytime today, making a pretty good curvature of the cloud field there. And back edge of that front eventually going to push up to the coastline tonight and then inland tomorrow. So you're in for at least another 24 hours of rain there. Then it'll become a little more showery. Clear skies, Bristol Bay, all the way up the west side here until you get out to, although some areas of the coast out here also cleared out as well. But it's a little misleading here. It shows clear skies on the satellite, but it's not. There's extensive area low clouds out all over this area. But this is clear here over Bristol Bay and most of Kodiak Island. On the chart today, the analysis from late this morning, there's that big area high pressure out over the Bering Sea, and then the remnants of that frontal boundary going between it there. And again, the high pressure following the storm in from yesterday there. So light winds, some clouds up along the Arctic coast, generally dry conditions. A few leftover snow flurries on the eastern Brooks Range early, then some showers developing, scattered isolated showers, kind of getting a little more organized into the afternoon hours around the Fairbanks area, central Tanana Valley, a little bit down along the Alaska Range, and then more widespread precipitation falling there from Northway, raining since late this morning, all day long, rain and snow into the eastern Alaska Range, probably down into the Wrangles as well, linking up with that area of rain along the North Gulf Coast. So this is the wettest part of the state today, and again, rain now all the way down to Dixon Entrance with those winds. And we'll see tonight the forecast, that front comes right up to the coast sometime around anywhere between 2 and 4 a.m. tomorrow to about that position. And rain, of course, occurring from the Queen Charlottes all the way back up and over to Cordova. I think you'll be right on the northern edge, so you'll probably be dry for the most part there for Valdez, especially with those north winds that were gusting pretty good today. Also very windy in the Copper River Valley with Gulcanicine gusts 45 miles an hour in that stretch of the area. But look for some scattered rain and snow showers here. There'll be one form or the other, which will depend on your location, your elevation, and the time of the evening. Otherwise, a lot of clear skies or fair conditions. Northeast to southwest, that offshore flow, keeping it mostly clear. Definitely VFR here all along the coast from, we'll say, Pilot Point back over toward Cape Newenham and, of course, on up into the deltas. But this moisture sliding through the ridge there, the low center, very weak low center there. So the warm front moisture coming down, approaching the Yukon Delta coast later tonight, but lots of low clouds and fog. Winds will be light, though, here out over the Bering Sea down to the Aleutians. And so we'll continue to diminish the winds here across the Alaska Peninsula slowly tonight, and be a little slower to drop them all off here across Bristol Bay. Stay a little breezy Kodiak Island up into south central Alaska, but definitely winds will be starting to diminish, especially later this evening and in toward tomorrow, but still some gusty areas here. And the front, again, keeping well to the west of even Shimia and Attu Island. But this one up here to the north, the more Arctic front, Arctic front, spreading some light snow into the western Arctic coastal areas with some fog and lower flying conditions. Probably see some marginal, at least IFR with that. They now begin to slide southward, and some of that moisture getting down to the Yukon Delta coast, probably be in the form of drizzle, fog, or very light rain, extending back to the northeast there, this edging its way eastward and southeastward, and definitely to the south here, getting caught up in that northerly flow around this persistent area of high pressure over the Bering Sea, which is going to stay out there probably for much of the upcoming week and not move a whole lot. So we're going to be seeing a series of these systems coming around and then dropping into the interior. While this system, we still have the upper level low basically off the coast with one portion extending inland there, supporting this front to finally kick off to the east, but a lot of showers and along the panhandle tomorrow, starting to break out a little bit down along the coast here in the afternoon hours, maybe a little bit clearing showing up, but still some more showers back off to the southwest. Sunshine again with less wind here over south central Alaska. Just variably cloudy, kind of a partly to mostly day for Prince William Sound with light winds, lighter winds definitely, and still some showers going on for the mostly the Wrangell Mountains, or actually down Yakutat, Cordova, up across the Wrangell, into the areas that saw the rain today. It'll be more scattered showers by tomorrow afternoon in that area. Otherwise, low clouds and fog staying off the coast here, but the lower conditions somewhere from Nunivak Island and again across the Yukon Delta. Lots of IFR out here over the Bering Sea, really hit and miss, probably more hit. The VFR will be a lot more miss unless you're on the southern side of the peninsula and eastern Aleutians, Fox Islands. Looking pretty good, kind of like last week. Sandpoint, see a fair amount of sunshine, but Nelson Lagoon, Cold Bay will be socked in. For Wednesday, that outlook, that front coming in, slides of moisture anyway, be mostly in the form of a cloud shield here, with maybe a couple isolated showers developing along the Alaska Range, the Kilbrook Mountains, those areas. Otherwise, not much left with it. The main push slides down, so you'll see even more extensive cloudiness and drizzle and fog here along the eastern Aleutians on up to the Alaska Peninsula, but really not a whole lot more going on with that than just some variable cloudiness moving through as that remnants of that very weak frontal boundary pushes eastward, and then still some afternoon showers here over the Talkeetna Mountains, maybe the Chugach, possibly the Alaska Range, but again more extensive over the Copper River Basin on up into the eastern Alaska Range, isolated scattered showers in the afternoon. and also still enough of an upper level trough here to keep it unstable along the North Gulf Coast or the Eastern Gulf Coast for showers over the Panhandle. Another system brings some more rain in across the southern areas, so it looks pretty wet again down to the south with drier conditions up to the north there with just some scattered showers. High pressure again holding out here over the Bering Sea. And that front now, just a few showers left of that and barely even a trough, but the low clouds and fog still pretty extensive right from the Chukchi Sea through the Bering Strait, St. Lawrence Island, the Pribilofs, occasional IFR, fog, low clouds, fog, kind of a summer kind of day there, and on back with some possibly seeing some sun, maybe a little bit of clearing optimistically for places like Adak, Atka, and even Shemya. For the temperatures this afternoon, these are all 4 p.m. readings, mostly in the upper 40s, mid to upper 40s, with the clouds, rain, and wind here along the southeast coast. 47, Yakutat, Sitka at 49, Juneau at about 48 degrees, Sitka 49 degrees there, and those Lynn Canal winds gusting over 40 miles an hour this afternoon. 50 degrees in Cordova and a 56 at Seward. Same thing in Kenai. 58 Anchorage with up the valley. Those winds, definitely by the time you get up to the Denali Park entrance there, just 36 degrees with some gusty north winds. 40s with the clouds and showers here over the eastern Tanana Valley. Fairbanks, 50 degrees, 51 at Tanana. Up to the north, 28 at Anatovik, 25 at Dead Horse with a 27 at Kaktovik. But Arctic Village up to 36 and mostly in the lower to mid 30s here back along the western Arctic coast. Except for Barrow, where it's right at freezing this afternoon, but Atasuk was up to 37 degrees, 27 Point Hope, and a 31 at Kivalina, 30 degrees at Kotzebue, 37 at Shishmaref, 10 degrees cooler at Tin City, then back above freezing around over toward Nome, about the same for St. Lawrence Island. Mid to upper 30s here along the coastline with 51 at Bethel and a 50-degree reading at both McGrath and Koliganek, 53 at King Salmon. And mid-40s to lower 50s here along the peninsula with 41 at Unalaska, lower 40s there, 42 for St. George, 41 Atka, but up to 46 for Adak, and kind of a cool 40 out at Shemya. Low temperatures tonight, teens and 20s up over the North Slope and eastern Arctic coast. A little milder back here, mid-20s due to the approach of that next system, a little more cloud cover, deeper moisture layer, and a southwest wind. Right near freezing down through the strait to St. Lawrence Island. Upper 20s to lower 30s here over the Copper River Basin areas and portions of the Tanana Valley down into the Matanuska-Susitna valleys. Otherwise, upper 40s to lower, or upper 30s to lower 40s for the remainder of the coast. 30s to near 40 out to the west, and you look a lot like the highs for the lows tonight for the Panhandle. So tomorrow should be up in that 50 to 55 degree range in most areas except out along the coast. Port Alexander and Sitka probably only making 48. Upper 50s to lower 60s here over the interior. Mid 50s for the central interior and 50s to lower 60s. So looking pretty good down here over Bristol Bay, lower 60s there. Chilliest up from the Brooks Range to the Arctic coast there, and now that colder air coming in behind that system, keeping it in the upper 20s, but not too bad for the Seward Peninsula. And for flying weather, IFR with that system starting out here to the west and then working eastward to about this position roughly in early afternoon tomorrow. So tending to be more of a marginal VFR afternoon with an IFR morning there on the western Arctic coast. And then the conditions coming down on the east side, that trailing back into the Bering Sea again, where quite an extensive area of low stuff out there. With the IFR a lot more widespread than the VFR, marginal VFR up along the peninsula there, maybe in some lingering here over the southwest Bristol Bay or southwest Prince William Sound area, and then off to the south a little bit. For passes, marginal VFR becoming IFR, they'll be on the northern entrance, otherwise VFR to the south becoming marginal in the pass itself for Anatovik. About the same thing for Adigan, except maybe an hour and a half later, with the conditions possibly coming down to IFR in the northern entrance, staying pretty good through the pass to the south. Lake Clark and Merrill, in fact, the entire Alaska range looking really good tomorrow. All VFR, windy, even Isabel and Mentasta, good VFR, and Tanita VFR, so no problem for Portage. Will be VFR there, hopefully. And for Chilkoot and White, occasionally marginal to mostly marginal VFR. For the freezing levels here, of course, the warm air mass with the upper level high out over the Bering Sea, and then kind of a pretty good gradient right here across the Bering Strait. So the upper level winds in the jet stream following along that and then diving down to the southeast here with the main upper low now. Quite low snow levels here coming in across the southeast coast, and the surface something like this. Again, this is for early tomorrow morning or early tomorrow morning or really late tonight. And icing from here due to the more convective nature of things with the lower snow levels, more unstable. So the icing that does take place here probably be of the mixed variety, light, and then possibly some widespread, maybe widespread light rime icing with just some isolated areas of moderate possible, but shouldn't be too serious up here. Seward Peninsula, again, spreading southward toward the Yukon Delta coast, and then along the frontal zone there up to the northeast. And here's the big high here out over the Bering Sea, and again, either the jets breaking through well to the south, or we have to watch for these disturbances coming over the top. Upper level low tomorrow, sliding southeastward here. Still have about a 100-knot jet there with this jet staying well to the south. And for 9,000 feet, northwest flow at about 25 here across the Bering Sea into the southwest interior. Picking up speed a little bit there along the peninsula at about 35 knots, but lighter out over the Aleutians. And still again at southwest flow now, but strongest off to the southeast. So that's going to allow things to become a little more showery and cooler as the jet stream segs a little bit to the south. And at 3,000 feet, same thing here with the jet farther to the south. Should become more showery there, lighter winds at this level, only 10 to 15 knots. Still a little brisk here for Kodiak Island, and but only 15 to 20. So winds coming down, then the next system starting to bring a little bit breezier, but not too bad of a condition into the northwest coast. Turbulence, light to isolated moderate chop for the southwest mountains here, and then along the western Alaska Range, Kodiak Island. Definitely less than what was seen today. After the break, hangar flying, I'll be back with the marine forecasts.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Mary O'Connor, and I'm with the Alaskan Aviation Safety Foundation and also with the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health here in Anchorage. This evening, we are happy to have as our guest Adam White. Adam is with the Government and Legislative Affairs for the Alaska Airmen's Association. We're going to be speaking with Adam about the changes that are in the works for the common traffic advisory frequencies that are used by pilots flying in the Mat-Su Valley. Welcome, Adam.
Hey, Mary.
Change is difficult for a lot of people. Can you tell us a little bit about the background, why these changes are occurring?
Sure. Well, a lot of us have heard about in the media some of the high-profile mid-air collisions that have happened here in the state in recent years. It's a tragedy. We wanted to see what we can do to help mitigate those, and the NTSB came out with a recommendation that the area there in the Matanuska, Susitna Valley, be reevaluated for frequency. And so the industry got together with the FAA, sat down, and a long process of going through and figuring out where the frequencies were in some confusion, where they were overlapping, and where it may have been better to change some of those. And so it's been a very long process to try to simplify a lot of that information and make it easier for pilots to know what frequency they're supposed to be on, so that we can help mitigate some of these mid-air collisions in the past. Great.
Simple and easy is always better.
Well, simple and easy is not always easy to obtain either. So it's been a long process, and we're really hoping that this will achieve the goal that we're after.
Can you tell us what some of these changes are going to look like?
So previously we had frequencies in some of the common traffic advisory areas that around the airports that were overlapping, that were different. And so the idea that although this pilot may actually be on the correct frequency for what they were doing, it was contrary to what another pilot was doing. And so what we've done is we've simplified into areas and used some geographical boundaries in some cases, and in other cases had to come up with some somewhat arbitrary lines to that any landing area, and had to go back and review that as well, because it's not just formal airports, it's any landing area that we wanted to simplify this so that folks were sure that they were on the right frequency. So that was the goal, and that's what's coming out now. We've got some documentation that we're looking to roll out here May 29th with the next publication cycle, and in that it's going to show us where some of these changes are actually happening.
So May 29th is the big date.
That's the date that this goes public and goes live. We've got an education campaign on right now. We've got some graphics that we've been able to publish outside of the FAA ahead of time that folks can take a look at, that actually shows where the boundaries are, shows what frequency they're inside those boundaries, and then be able to have a better idea what's going on. So that graphic is distributed around the state. There's different places where folks can find that. The Alaska Airmen's Association has got copies in our office in Anchorage as well as in Fairbanks, and you'll see them posted up around some of the airports in the local area in the Mat-Su Valley.
And what about folks that don't live in the Anchorage area? Is there a place online where they might be able to go and get some of this information?
There is. The FAA has a website that where there's a lot of information about flying in Alaska, and there's other websites, the Alaska Aviation Safety Foundation, Alaska Airmen's Association. We're all pointing to that site with the FAA, the Go Fly Alaska site, where you can see this chart. You can look at those changes and kind of get an idea of what's happening before it actually comes into place. So yeah, that's probably the easiest way to get that information. One of the other things we're encouraging folks to do is that this is the chart cycle that you need to update your charts. This is the time, if you don't buy new charts every time, this is the one you want to buy, because this is going to have the new information. If you only update the database in your GPS from time to time, you may want to invest the money to go ahead and get this done on this charting cycle.
So that's great information. So people need to, number one, purchase a new supplement this season for May 29th, and also to go online and look at the website and see what the map looks like and where the changes are occurring.
Right.
Great. Well, thank you, Adam. Thank you for your efforts with the government and industry and working together to make the skies in Alaska safer for pilots. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back next time with Adam White to learn more about these frequency changes. We hope that you've learned something, and we hope that you've enjoyed hangar flying. Until next time, fly safely.
Welcome back. With the front eventually moving through, look for lighter winds throughout most of the day tomorrow. Maybe still up to 20 knots on the south coast, southern inner channels. And again in the afternoon, kicking up to at least small craft advisories for Lynn Canal. And the outlook for Wednesday, light variable winds here all through the inside waters, except Lynn Canal still trending south at about 20, the way it looks at this point in time. But the remainder of the coast out here, kind of offshore drift or an easterly component here, mostly northeast to southeast, but all light, 10 to 15 knots. And Prince William Sound becoming light and variable tomorrow at about 10. Could still see some northeast or east-northeast, maybe up to 20 for the North Gulf Coast. Westerlies, northwesterlies, no change in the direction really, but the speeds coming down to pretty light conditions, definitely for Cook Inlet, and on up in toward the northern inlet too, kind of a big drop off from today. For Wednesday, light variable winds from the northern inlet here right down into Kamishak Bay and across the Barrens. Really light winds everywhere, and at these speeds, and you can almost call it light and variable in every zone. For the Bristol Bay zone, north at 10 tomorrow, northwest 20. For the waters southwest of Kodiak Island, 15-knot winds for the peninsula here, more of a northeast direction on the Bering Sea side. And for the Wednesday outlook, picking up maybe 20-knot winds coming all the way down to the peninsula here. And Bristol Bay, I think it'll be northwest at 15, but just out in this area here, kicking up to 20, possibly even small craft advisory level winds, staying just west of that zone there, and very light winds now southwest of Kodiak. Out in the Aleutians, Fox Islands tomorrow, northeast of 15, pretty good there, and very light winds here for the west central Aleutians, 10 knots, then back up to 15 there towards Shemya. And this about holds through Wednesday, these light winds, east-northeast or northeast, 10 knots, Atka, Adak on out toward Amchitka. west 50 or east 15 there, otherwise northeasterlies 10 to 15 knots everywhere else. For the southwest coast here, 15 to 20 knot winds from the northwest tomorrow, lighter up around St. Lawrence Island, west 15, St. Matthew Island, the northern Bering Sea, pretty light northerlies for the Pribilofs. And that'll probably edge up to about 15, 16, 17 knots in those areas or that marine area there on Wednesday, but staying light here for much of the St. Matthew Island zone. And then 15 to 20, again 22 or 3 knots here along the southwest coast, probably only 15 knots up around St. Lawrence Island. But you could see maybe even gusts as high as 27 knots here in that channeled area between Nunivak Island and the coast. For the eastern Arctic coast tomorrow, still light in the winds, kind of variable to offshore, and then northwesterlies coming in behind that system as it swings eastward. May kick up to 20 knots for a short period of time behind the front, and then northerlies 10 to 15 here to the west. Those become northwest at about the same speeds Wednesday, but now the entire stretch of the Arctic coast westerly 15 to 20 knots. For tonight again, rain becoming heavier and continuing for the northern areas, becoming heavier down to the south there, but the winds probably as strong as they'll get. Currently staying wet along the North Gulf Coast, some variable clouds into Prince William Sound, maybe some showers up over the mountains here in the form of rain or snow, but very dry conditions. South central Alaska, maybe some showers this evening scattered along the Chugach, but that'll be mostly up here to the north, but otherwise very dry conditions, windy, but winds diminishing. And the next system sliding some moisture into the northwest coast should be in the form of snow up there, light snow or flurries or fog, and mostly liquid form as it spreads southward around the big high over the Bering Sea. Another sunny, nice day here over south central Alaska, right up into the interior. Diminishing showers kind of lingering over the eastern interior. Rain becoming more showery for the southeast coast, and then another system with more rain the next day.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.